Welcome to the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast. I am your host, Dean Phillips. Precision Metal Forming Association is our sponsor. It is the Destiny of Manufacturing, powered by Precision Metal Forming Association. With me today from the Precision Metal Forming Association, I have Scott Rieg. Scott, welcome.
Good morning, Dean. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic, and even better now that you're on the show. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So right off the bat, tell me what your big takeaway is for the next 5 years.
Well, a couple things that I've been seeing since I've been out traveling and visiting members is the in-plant training is really starting to take off. Some of the shops that I've been to, one last week, is unbelievable. He's got it set up for press operation, technician, and also tool and die apprenticeship programs. He tracks all the hours, documents all the activities. They actually have projects that they're doing out on the floor, making 1, 2, 3 blocks, sign bars, different things that you use in the tool and die trade. It's set up for 2 years schooling, but 4 years out on the plant, working with all the different equipment, and then switching over to the press room. It's a 1-year program, and they go from start to finish, from loading a coil to running it through the straightener, running it through the feeder, getting into the progressive die, and making first hits. They've even gone as far as doing their first piece approval. So by the time they walk it into quality to save time, they've already done a check. They know the part's good. So now the quality time doesn't have to spend too much quick approval, and the parts are outrun. And the second thing is I'm real happy to see is some schools are starting to bring back shop classes. I grew up in the 70s, and a lot of the schools, even middle schools, had wood shop. Some of them even had mechanic shop. My brothers, I come from a family of 7 boys, and all 3 of them ahead of me were all in trades. And it just kind of falls right into, I'm happy to see that that's coming back. It gives people an early taste of manufacturing, learning how to weld. I learned how to weld when I was 6 or 7. My dad was a welder for GM for 35 years. So I didn't realize that everybody didn't have a welder in their garage.
They should. They should.
Growing up with that helped out quite a bit to just understand what you could do. And I know I work with Pete Eulens, and Pete and I talk a lot about, he's a little older than me, but not much. And our lives were very similar. Everybody grew up working out in the garage with their dads and things. So I think those are the 2 big items that I see right now is companies are starting to realize that instead of going out trying to find that person, they're looking within first, and they're finding the ones that test high in certain areas. And they're starting to bring them into a more responsible roles. Press operators are starting to become machinists. Machinists are starting to become tool and die makers. We certainly have a big 20-year gap in there. There's no doubt about it. But if from what I've seen in the last 6 months to a year, it looks like a lot of shops are starting to take responsibility of homegrown, their own. Instead of trying to go out there finding someone, they're saying the heck with it. Let's just, which if you think about it, in the 70s and 60s, that's what companies did. That's what apprenticeship programs were all about. You brought people in and let them work on the shop for 6 months, and then if you saw something in them, especially just attendance, showing up to work, and a good attitude, you can basically teach anybody how to be a tool and die maker and things if they have the right um, starting blocks.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. And I I really miss and I really disappointed that we've gotten away from that. Now I am a product of a vocational high school. I went to a vocational high school that had we had electronics and we had machining and when well I say electronics it is broader than that. We did residential wiring, we had HVAC, we had motor winding and AC theory. And the one thing I can say is that I, to this day, use what I learned in high school more than I use all of what I learned in college, which
Sure.
is incredible because when I was in college for electronics, we didn't do much with AC theory, with going into motor controls and reading prints and things like that. Those are things I learned in high school.
Right.
In
Right.
college, you got into schematics. You didn't have motor control circuits and things like that. So it's disappointing, and you're right. It's something that I'm glad to see is coming back. I am very happy of it because it gives people another avenue rather than, well, you just need to go to school for business.
Right. And you know, I earlier we were talking about college, and I think college is great, you know, but there I also don't think college is for everyone. And the other thing is, you know, we're set up on this time frame that you graduate from high school, you go to college. You know, maybe it takes some people a little longer to be able to make that transfer into college. And, you know, so maybe go out and get a job for a while and see if there's a trade that you want to learn how to do, or maybe you want to go into engineering. You know, after you see some, it, there's nothing cooler than watching a piece of flat steel go through a die, and at the end, this part comes out, and you're just like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when I bring strips, um, tool and die strips, to training classes, it, that's what everybody wants to look at. You know, when I go to schools, that's what everybody wants to look at. And they, you know, and I try to bring stamping strips that are common things that they would see in the day to day,
Mhm.
spoons, you know, things like that, and you know, different parts that they see all the time, and they're like, "That's made out of steel." Yeah, but it doesn't look like it. And I go, well, that's because they put plastic around it. Yeah,
Right.
you know, a lot of parts people don't even realize that inside is the steel part, you know, and
Hmm.
then it gets coated in, you know, either coated in a color, paint, plastic, rubber, and everything. But I find that pretty interesting to bring into classes.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that. But as far as college, I think it's great. I just think that some parents should sit down with their kids sometimes before they make that decision and say, hey, are you really ready for this? You know, or not? So
Yeah.
uh,
And I think most of the students would say that they're not ready. You know, they haven't made up their mind. I was fortunate. Had a grandfather who was an electrician and an uncle who was in HVAC, and several went to the same vocational high school as I went to. So I kind of was geared in that direction, but a lot of
sure,
people don't have that opportunity. And you don't know that you want to work with things with your hand. But if you look at 3D printing and all of these things are all an extension of manufacturing today, uh, building model building and things like that. That
well,
that's incredible.
you're right, and you know, you look back 40 years ago, now you move up 40 and think, I find it interesting when I go out to plant floors and people are walking around with iPads and,
Hmm.
you know, controlling machines off iPad. You know, two or three presses are running, and one gentleman's running the whole thing, or men or women, it doesn't matter, are running it all on iPads or from an office upstairs. Same with machining. You know, a guy doesn't stand in front of a machine anymore.
Right.
He's got like six going, you
Hmm.
know, and he's responsible for all those.
Yeah.
So it's a changing thing for sure.
Yeah. So when you look at where we are today in training, what are some things that you've seen change in how we train people?
Well, a lot of it is definitely we feel that the web is a great tool. Okay, there's no doubt about it. And when we do webinars and things like that, they're great because you can reach more people. But I still feel that face-to-face in plant training is critical. Um, a lot of the people that we're training now are non-manufacturing people. They're coming from different fields that they've never even been in a factory. So we feel that sometimes we take them out to the shop before we even start our training programs, and okay, today we're going to be going over the feed line. This is a feed line. This is a straightener. This is your feeder. This is your coil. Cranes. How do you pick it up? What you know? A lot of people come in and they've never. You put them in front of a 1,000-ton press. They're just like, oh my god. You know, I think what's changing in that now is a lot more hands-on. Instead of just sitting there when I went through it with a book, and you fill out, you do your tests, and and then you went to work. It seems like the companies are taking a much more active role in bringing training and then also sending their employees to places. We have training here at the PMA center monthly, 2, 3 times a month. We'll have groups coming in here. And then my partner Pete Eulens and we have at least 2 implant training a month that we have to go out to. So I see that the companies are really starting to step up. They're spending money, realizing that they got to take care of the people that they have to retain the talent they've already had, and they have to start helping them advance to keep them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is an investment in their future, and I think
No
that's
doubt
what
about it.
companies have to realize that there's
Well, and there's that old saying, well, if I train them, they're going to go somewhere else. Well, if you don't, they'll stay.
right. I agree. Hey,
So,
so how did you get involved in manufacturing?
geez, it's a, my older brothers were in it, but I swore that I was not going to get into it. I did not. I did not. I said to myself, I am not getting into the tool and die trade, manufacturing, nothing. A gentleman, Frank Maywalt, owns Atlantic Tool and Die. I ran track with his sons. And when I graduated, I knew I wasn't going to go to college. And he said, well, why don't you come by the shop on Monday and I'll get you in the shop. So I started working there. And then he offered me an apprenticeship program. And I didn't even know what a tool and die maker was. So then I served my apprenticeship. And I've met some great people over the years. And then Pete Eulens, I ran into him. He got me up into engineering. And then I was nice enough, worked out. I ended up helped building a company down in Mexico, which was crazy, you know. And then I ran projects all over the world in China and Taiwan and things. And here, I wasn't even going to get into it. So, so, and now it's been great. It's a great career, and luckily I found I've always been a huge fan of the PMA, and I've always wanted to work for them. And now this is a great way to spend the next few years helping and training. It's funny how you get older, and that's the first thing you think about is, okay, I gotta help my next generation. You know, I got helped. I got to pay forward. I got to help somebody. And I find myself running into certain people, and I always give them my cell phone number or my email and say, hey, if you could get stuck, give me a call and I'll happy to help you out and stuff like that. So, that's how I got it. It was just meeting the right people and being a good employee, I didn't miss work. I grew up with, my mom and dad. You didn't miss work.
Right.
So, which is huge.
Sure.
but that's how I
Absolutely.
got it. And it was just meeting the right people in the right time, and you know, each taking the steps.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What is the value you think the greatest value you find with in-plant training? What are the things that you see that are really beneficial to doing the in-plant training?
Well, I think some of the in-plant training, when you're uh, bringing the people out from the shop up, a lot of people, you know, may have a difficult time reading, writing, something like that, and they kind of hide into the shop, but yet they're very intelligent. And just because they can't, sit down and write a report or something like that, they kind of hide that. So what I've seen in training now with all the technology, it's making people with a little bit of a handicap, reading, writing, math, whatever it might be. There's so many more tools out there that I've noticed we're able to bring out that person in the training. We'll start a 1 day train. We'll start a 3 day training class, and that first day is always rough. Nobody's talking. All they want to do is go home. And the second day, you start breaking them out. You start to, about the third day, you start realizing, well, there's a couple sharp guys here, or a couple really sharp women, and you want to make sure that HR is aware of that. That
Mhm.
hey, this girl is really really good. You might want to kind of work with her and kind of help her along. I think that's what I've found so far in the training is that you're starting to bring out other people that normally wouldn't even know they had interest in purchasing
Right.
quality, quality. And again, they hire somebody, they put them out in the press room. You know, you got to find a way to see what else they have to offer.
Yeah.
And
And
that's what I've noticed is that, um, you know, I'm able to bring out a lot of um, different people and
yeah.
then let HR know that. So
Yeah.
I think that answers,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things about training. It's really, um, it's a lot easier when you're only in a group of 5, 10 people. You send somebody to a training class of 35, 40, and if they're not a very outgoing person, they're not just sit there. Now they might get a lot out of it, but most training is interaction. Hey, let's talk about this, what the problems that you've seen and stuff like that. So I know I prefer keeping the groups no more than 10 people because then we can really focus on talking with certain about things. And then once they get your trust, a lot of times when class is over, they'll spend another 15, 20 minutes just talking about stuff. And
Yeah.
that's when I know we're starting to, you know, break through.
Yeah. Do you find now that people have lost what used to be called tool and die and still think it's machining? I know when I've gone to a lot of colleges and say, "Hey, this is what manufacturers are saying they need. They need tool and die." And the common response is, "Well, we have a machining program."
I
And
think I think it's always been like that. And I think with the improvements of the CNC in the last 30, 40 years, uh, it's pretty easy to say, now you can go and be a machinist. And some of these machinists are phenomenal. Um, the tool and die trade has changed a lot. Just look at the way they're designed now. I mean, I had a board. I did it all with pencil. Now they got AutoCAD. They make changes on the fly. It's phenomenal. And the way people are building dies now, they're realizing that the littler shop down the street can make details cheaper and quicker, and it's all about speed now. So now they're farming out work, detail work, and bringing it back in and putting the puzzle together. But
yeah,
I'll tell you, you still need that person, that troubleshooter, because when that die goes in there, I guarantee you it is not going to make a good part out of the gate. And that I always said a good troubleshooter in a stamping company. is probably should be the most highest paid person because they're keeping that press going. You know,
Absolutely.
die makers are great. They can build the dies and everything, but boy, that troubleshooter, when there's a problem out there and that press is sitting idle at $500 an hour, people get excited about that. And they're like, okay, what's going on? And when you bring that troubleshooter out there that's seen a lot, and I think that's probably an area that we're really going to be hurting, if
Yeah.
not now, soon, because most of those troubleshooters, it takes years to become a troubleshooter.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden, people are in their 50s, 60s, and they're leaving. So I think that's going to be a difficult thing too. But you know, going back, I can't imagine that somebody's not working on some type of computer programming and stuff like that, that they're going to be able to track why parts, what dimensions, why the dimensions go out, and be able to backtrack it and say, okay, this happened before and this was the reason. Let's go, So I think they're going to probably be coming up with a lot of that kind of, answers too down the road.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things we teach is you got to step back when you have a problem. And it was running fine last week. Now we're trying, well, okay, coil, heat treat, temp, oil, lubrication. You just got to start going through the checklist.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Oh, those are very good points.
yeah, I enjoy that part of it. I always enjoyed being able to go out there and kind of start going through the checklist and saying, okay, boom, here we go, got it. So
Fantastic. So tell me right off the bat why you got involved with PMA and how people can reach you.
well, I like I said, I got involved because I like passing on knowledge. I'm finding out that I really enjoy training. I really enjoy meeting people that are starting out just like I did a long time ago. And the PMA it's known around the world. I mean, it is one of the and the people are fantastic. I mean, we have great people. And I from from manufacturing to PMA is like night and day. Now I'm worried about making sure articles are done, or I got to make sure I never had to do that before. And
Right.
and you get a hold of me through the PMA. It's S Rig, and it's RIEG at PMA.org. I believe you got that information, or you can
Yep.
post it up later. I'm on LinkedIn, and then you can just look at PMA also. If you're interested in training, implant training, you can reach out to us on our website. And then also we hold, like I said, a lot of training classes here in Independence, Ohio, which is our corporate headquarters.
Right. Fantastic, Scott. It's been a pleasure to have you on here today. Thank you
Well,
very much.
I know it's been a while, Dean. You and I have been trying to get together, so I'm glad you hung in there, and I really appreciate this. And I look forward to we talk again soon.
Absolutely.
Well, you take care and
Everybody,
have a great week, buddy.
you too. Thank you, everybody, for watching the show and tuning in, and have a great day.